This is Trash Talk with your host, Garrett the Trash Man.
What is up, everybody? This is Garrett the Trash Man, and you are listening to Trash Talk. After a few episodes without it, we got John the Batman Ballard back.
Oh, yeah.
What's happening, John?
Oh, not much. It's good to be back.
Sweet. So, let's dive right into this. Lots to do. So, yeah, we're going to dive right into it by thanking our sponsor.
I was about to say, you can't forget the sponsor.
Well, I'm not going to. What do you know about Larson Waste, John?
It's best trash company in the world.
That's right. That's right. As Tom Caldwell pointed out, we did a survey. World's best trash company, Larson Waste. Listen, announcement for Rim Country in specific, or specifically, I guess is probably the best way to say that.
Because it's November.
Yeah, it's November. At the end of November, your waste management bill is going to be due. Don't pay that. Switch to us instead. You'll be so much happier. Your life will be better with Larson Waste picking up your trash. I will tell you that right now. We will improve your life if we are picking up your trash. It's that simple.
It came in the survey, guys.
It came in the survey. You want to have your life? You want your wife to be happy? Are you having marital problems? Well, then switch to Larson Waste today. We solve it. I'm not going to tell you how, but just switch. So anyway, yeah, Rim Country, the bill's coming up. It's the time to switch, so do it. And we've got surprises coming down the pipeline, some recycling surprises down there for Rim Country coming your way. Now, for the rest of our customers, let me tell you how to save some stinking money for Christmas.
Woot.
Refer a friend to switch to our trash service. You both get a free month. Boom.
Boom,
Saving some money.
shakalaka.
Refer 18 friends, and you'll never have to pay trash for a year and a half. You can pay for a lot of Christmas with a year and a half trash, so go refer 18 friends.
All day.
So do that. Go to larsonwaste.com. You can sign up right there. Give us a call. Whatever you got to do, just make it happen. Hit me up across any of the platforms, Garrett the Trash Man. Shoot me a text, 928-243-0803. Get signed up. Anyway, we literally have like dozens of ways you can sign up for our service. So do it. So
Bada bing, bada boom.
yeah, there you go, Larson Waste. Now, I am renting first because John came ill-prepared in his own words. So, all right.
I'll own up to that.
So, this last week, I had the opportunity to go to an on-site with the leadership group, and something we focused on was planning out our 2020. And it was a different experience than these goal-setting meetings that we've had before. There's so much rotten connotation around goal setting because, you know, the distinction I see is the difference between just like throwing something out there and it's like, yeah, the coolest in the room is going to say the most extravagant thing, and putting a stake in the ground for something you're actually going to do.
Yeah.
And my experience with this was putting a stake in the ground for what we're actually going to do. And we're going to create 2020. I'm going to create 2020 like intentionally. And it was so useful to do that. And then a few days after I had that on site, we got our management team together. We did an off-site meeting, and we did the same thing for Larson Waste. And we decided what 2020 was going to look at. We put a stake in the ground on 3 different things that we will accomplish. And then we had each manager put down 3 different goals that they're going to do to accomplish those 3 goals in the first quarter. And that will feed it quarter after quarter after quarter. And I think lots of times we complicate things so much when really we've just got to make a decision on what we want to do, declare we're going to do it, go actually do the thing. And then I think something that I miss all the time that people ought to pay attention to is look back and like acknowledge the thing that you accomplished. Acknowledge what you just did there.
Yeah.
Because so many times we do that and we forget that part, and we lose a lot of like motivation and power by not acknowledging it. So I just encourage everyone to do that. Look at that different. Take some time. Really look at your year and see what you want to create and what you have space to create, and see yourself doing it, and go do it. Go put that down. Go declare it. Put a stake in the ground. Make it happen. So be committed to it. So
I like that. good.
Do it. That is my rant for today. Johnny, you got anything?
I do.
What you got?
So, one of my favorite books is called The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews. If you've never read it, go look it up. It's really good. It's got a lot of valuable things, and it's got a lot of neat stuff in it. But one of the things he talks about in it is the value of persistence and of, sticking with it. And I've had some stuff going on in life where, recently where, I've kind of been able to see the fruits of being persistent, of sticking to it, of keeping the nose to the grindstone. And in thinking about this, it's brought up, talking about how in that book he talks about how people who are able to create success in their lives in whatever way they want it to be, they stuck with it. They never quit. They kept going, even though, for a long time they didn't know if they were going to get there or not. Eventually they did, and it paid off. And then you always look back when you have been persistent and you have stuck with things, and you can say, oh, hey, I did that. It might not have happened exactly how I thought it would, but we made it happen, and it turned out to be a good thing. Mm-hmm. And so that's just kind of been on my mind the last couple of days of, hey, stick with it,
So what is it that you're now like seeing the fruits of being persistent?
So two things. Like first off, we just sold a house. If any of you have listened to this, I flip houses on the side, and the most recent one that we sold went from a very small project to a very large project very quickly. And if you've ever flipped a house or done any construction, that's common. It wasn't we weren't surprised that it happened, but twice the time, twice the money, and a whole lot of work later, we still made it happen, and it still turned out to be a good thing for us, and it still worked out. We were still profitable on it, and so that was one thing. The other thing is just in the industry I'm in being in home care, because of the nature of our area. A very large amount of our business every fall leaves for the winter.
Yeah.
Poof, gone. See you next spring, they tell me. And up until now, every time of year, going into this time of year, I've been pretty worried about it, Mm-hmm. Just saying, oh man, we're going to the winter, we lost a bunch of people, or what's the winter going to bring for us? And because of preparation and persistence, we're going into winter looking just fine.
Yeah.
And it's just a completely different feeling, and we're now going to use winter to be a catapult to go into next year and next summer when they all come up, and so it's just, I don't know, sticking with it, and the stick-to-itiveness and stuff has been, I don't know, it's just been one of those times where like, hey, here's the fruits of your labor, and if you stick to it and keep building on that momentum, then it's just going to keep building.
Yeah. I came across a thing the other day, and it was a billionaire talking that I think really relates to what you're saying. And he was like, I'm not any smarter than anyone in this room. Like, I'm intelligent, I can do things, but nothing incredible. Like, there's nothing special about me. I just keep working, and when things are bad, I realize that I can just stick through it, and I don't lose sight that when things are bad, they're going to be good again. And vice versa, when things are good, I just stick to it and recognize that when things are good, they're going to be bad again. And so I think if you can keep level-headed and just keep doing what you've got to do to be successful, like there'll be goods, there'll be bads, there'll be ups and downs, but over time, I think your downs will be what used to be your ups. Mm-hmm. And then as you just continue on, it's like, man, you can be a lot higher level because what used to be your best is your worst.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
I'm sure you experience that as you're growing your business. It's
absolutely.
It's like, oh man, what a bad month. Oh wait, let me look back 3 years.
Exactly.
That was like, we threw a party because we
exactly.
we did that 3 years ago. So that's awesome.
It's funny that you say that because like, just wrap that comment up in a box and That's
Just a nice little box. Mailed it to you guys right into your ear.
Yep.
Ears is what we did there.
You're welcome, everybody.
Right into your ear holes. Yeah, sweet. Well, let's dive into this podcast. I was halfway listening when you said your question, but I was like, that works. Just ask me the question on the podcast, and that's what we'll answer. So,
okay.
What's your question?
So my, hopefully I can put it into better terms than I did before. So my question to you, Garrett, is, before Ontocore and before a lot of the work that you've done on yourself, were you able to find clarity, and if so, to what level, and how did that impact you?
Yeah, so real quick, just because I don't, this could be someone's first time listening to our podcast, or you could have just missed some stuff that maybe we talked about what Ontocore was or wasn't. Let's just frame that up real quick. So Ontocore is a coaching group that I've worked with. I've gone to their courses, and I've also participated in a leadership group that they guided. And they focus on an ontological approach to leadership, meaning who you're being in a situation, not necessarily the thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
So the distinction would be ontological versus epistemological. Epistemological is like the tactics, the things like that you'd use behind business or relationships or life. Ontological is who you are showing up in there. One more illustration to help people wrap their minds around it. You could go be pulling weeds. There's a billion different tactics you could use about pulling weeds. We're not talking about the tactics. We're talking about who are we being and the impact that's having while we're pulling those weeds. So anyway, that's Ontocore. And my experience with them was it shifted everything in my life because it gave me a new perspective on things, on how I viewed things. And I had cultivated the practice of saying I was practicing extreme ownership. If any of you guys have read Jocko Wilkins' book, Extreme Ownership, he talks about that. And that was something that really resonated with me as I'd read that book before I'd gone to Ontocore. I was like, man, yeah, I've got ownership of anything. If you know Grant Cardone or just a bunch of these motivational guys, they're always talking about, everything's your fault. You get happy when you take everything on as your fault. And so I would give lip service to that, but I didn't really believe that. So often it'd be like, yeah, I would say that in front of people, but in my mind I'm like, well, if they did this, if that was different, then I wouldn't be dealing with this. And so as far as the clarity question, I didn't view myself as someone that could go out and create my life how I wanted it to be. And so there really wasn't space there for clarity because it was more like, I hope I just work, I had more of a vision that the more I worked, the more likely I was to be lucky and strike gold, per se.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was more the perception of life that I had. And so it was like, okay, well, I'll work 15 hours a day and I'm more likely to strike gold. Now, there's times where I work 15, 16 hours a day, but I'm really clear on what I'm doing it for and what I'm creating. And even if it's not totally clear, like the next step, I have a good vision of what I want my life to be. And I understand that I matter in that. I create, I can create that. It's not hopefully the stars align and I get lucky and it happens. And I was listening to a podcast. I don't know if this is true. I've never seen the actual numbers of it, and this was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Podcast called Barbell Shrugs or Barbell Business, one of the two. It was the same guys that did it, and they quoted a survey that they had asked people how you get rich in America. Like what's the route to getting rich, and the number one answer, well, I'll share the top two answers were become famous and win the lottery. And
Yep, that's true, guys.
yeah, that's the number one way to do it. You see a millionaire, it's one of those two things. And like it wasn't until after Ontocore that I honestly was living into living into that in a sense. Yes, I didn't think I needed to win the lottery. I didn't have anything wrapped up around being famous, but I thought it was basically a luck thing that had to come down some amount of
fairy dust.
Yeah,
Sprinkled
fairy
on you.
dust, and like a lot of it was based in my faith and what I believe wasn't a clear understanding of how God blesses us either. Because a lot of it was like, well, if I do a certain level of work and live my life in a certain way, then like magically something comes.
Yeah.
And I didn't see myself as a creator. So with the clarity, like what it's done is there's times like I may have had a sense of what I want my life to look like, but what Ontocore did was it slowed me down. And something I was told this last week while I was at that leadership thing that was really useful is if you don't know what you're doing, lay off the gas pedal. And what I like that is that's different. That's a distinct difference than stop what you're doing. Because I've preached on this podcast lots of times about the importance of taking action and being in action. Sometimes it takes faith. Like faith is an element of creation. Like you don't always know exactly what it looks like. So sometimes you've got to take action without seeing it. But the distinction of taking my foot off the gas pedal or slowing down, that's different than stopping and not doing anything.
Oh, absolutely.
Has made a big difference in my life. And I find myself telling myself that many times a day. And I approach situations totally different. When I can think about each conversation and say, okay, whoa, slow down. What is this conversation about? Why am I having it? What are my intentions? All my intentions. Not just the one outcome that I want, but there's ripple effects that happen. What experience do I want this person to have? Maybe my intention is to like correct a behavior. But it's not just correcting that behavior. There's an experience I want that certain person to have that has them want to continue working here and that is open to what I see could be corrected. And so I know this is super long-winded, but I didn't have a good sense of what clarity meant before I compared to what I see or how I hold clarity now. So that's been my experience with Ontocore and it changing as far as clarity goes. So does that answer your question, John?
It does.
All right.
It does.
You got any follow-up questions?
How do I want to phrase this? So now that you feel like you've created some clarity in your life now, what would be your suggestion for people, just in like a very short, sweet, and simple, like how can they become more clear on what they want and just simplify life in general and what they want to do?
I would say just slow down and actually ask yourself and have a conversation about it. And it's really not that freaking complicated. Like there's 5 things that I'm committed to in my life. I'm like, it's just those 5 things.
Yeah.
Everything I do, I look to point back as it's serving those 5 things. And those 5 things are in a hierarchy. And like I hold myself accountable to that hierarchy. Like, am I putting this above that? If I am, I stop. So that's what I would say is a simple thing. Slow down, decide what you're committed to in life, and then just hold everything else accountable to that.
Yeah.
So
I like it.
that's what I got. So yeah, dude, that seems like a decent place to end.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys listening. Hit me up across any of the platforms. Garrett the Trash Man. If you want to watch the videos of this, go to our YouTube channel, Garrett the Trash Man. We've got all the videos, as well as Instagram TV. Hit me up, follow me on those, and yeah, appreciate you guys listening. You got any plugs?
I just love what you said today. I think simplicity helps us understand what we're doing. So
All right.
I like it.
Kill it this week. Peace.
Deuces.